live? All right, here we go. Hi, my name is Lowell Alleman. I've been working with Splunk for about 10 years now, doing some professional services with Splunk. I've had a number of different backgrounds, and yeah, that's enough about me. So, just real briefly, I think a lot of people who are interested in this talk are probably already familiar with Git, but just as a real quick rundown, it's an open source tool that lets you track changes to files over time. Using it for administrator those already. So there's the answer to that comes often to do that. So it's basically going to be the latest one wins, right? So highest priority. So if my firewall admin, for example, user tracking is going to be entirely from this layer, and this layer will be completely ignored, which is exactly the same way as Splunk does it with default and local. So try to kind of maintains that same paradigm. So really, this is where a lot of the value of the tool. It's kind of a hard problem to solve manually. This exact same pattern can be applied to that, and it's worked pretty well. Last command we'll talk about is the unarchive command. And I say that for last because one of the things that this tool will do is, in some ways, it's not that different from like a tar unzip, but it also adds some additional some Git messages and those types of things for you. Like it will take a hash of the file, report the hash of the file in the message. The Git commit message will tell you, hey, you just upgraded from version 1.1.3 to 1.1.5. It will capture that information for you. And the best thing here is that if you're using the layered approach that we just talked about on the last slide, you can actually redirect that default folder to another location. So I can say, hey, instead of extracting default to its normal location, actually go ahead and write it out to my new layer, which saves me some time. Sorry, I have one more command. Well, actually, we're just going to skip that. So, going back to just looking at some practical tips for Git. So, I definitely recommend checking out the tool that I wrote. I think it's helpful. Definitely open to any kind of suggestions. But also wanted to kind of keep this a bit general as well. So last thing I'll just note is just some really practical things that I've run across that have saved me on a number of occasions. And this stuff really isn't super complicated, but it can be helpful. Things like when you're doing a pull, make sure that you're not merging if you didn't mean to. That's very straightforward. Typically, if I know that I made a change and I didn't actually push it anywhere else, or it's not those versions aren't replicated anywhere else, a rebase can be very helpful to kind of make those changes. As far as advanced Git usage, those things are helpful, and I try not to go too much beyond that on a general basis. The other thing I'll just point out, some people don't know this, I was surprised when I found it, is that if you're running the Git command, Git commit command, you can say author and you can just give it a short name, and it will go back and it will like look at your existing commit logs, and it will go, oh, hey, where's Joe? Oh, there's only one Joe in the organization. It will fill out the rest of the information for you. This is really helpful if you're on a shared server deployment type scenario. If everyone has their own deployment, if everyone's working in their own development environment, this type of stuff's not important. But what I find is that often, especially in the consulting world, we're working on a shared server, and so we might have 2 or 3 people working on the project at a time. It's helpful for us to keep track of who did what. Certainly very helpful. So definitely check us out on GitHub. We got some great links to documentation. Pretty much you can install it with just the pip command, and certainly are very interested in any feedback anyone has, and trying to make this tool more useful and helpful to the community at large. So, any questions from anybody? Or what are we? How are we on?
You're good.
Oh, ooh, look at that! 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? I can repeat them, and everyone's quiet. Well, I'll just stand real close. Signing off. We're good. No questions.
No questions online.
No questions on. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.